Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Spurs Up Show. This is Chris Phillips, and this is episode 7 of the Spurs Up Show. I'm joined today, again, as always, by my colleague Tyler Clark, and we also have a special guest on the show. But first, if you do want to follow the show, we are on iTunes at the Spurs Up Show. Also, be sure to check us out on armchairallamericans.com. You can find all the South Carolina content there, all the breaking news, articles, stuff like that, and, of course, the podcast. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at our Armchair South Carolina account. That's going to be Armchair SCAR, so Armchair SCAR. Like I said, we're actually joined by a very, very special guest today. Just to give you a little bit of background, he played for Gamecock football from 2013 to 2016, walked on to the team in 2013, eventually earned the starting quarterback role in 2015 after Connor Mitch went out with an injury against Kentucky and had a great performance in that game. Started a total of 8 games in 2015, a season which he went 143 for 261 for just under 2,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, 9 picks. And then in 2016, also went 57 for 90, 661 yards, 63.3% completion percentage. And also just a notable game that I know Gamecock fans remember, obviously the long run against Texas A&M. Leading the Gamecocks almost to a great comeback against Kentucky in 2015, and then in the opener against Vanderbilt, which, like I said, I know all Gamecock fans remember, he went 11 for 19 for 152 yards, and that comeback win to open the Muschamp era. So without further ado, I want to introduce and bring on to the show Perry Orth. Perry, how's it going, man? It's a pleasure to have you on.
Appreciate you guys having me on, man. Just here at work, hanging out, and excited to be on, talk some Gamecock football.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said, we're excited, and it's a pleasure to have you on. So we're going to dive right into it. Obviously, we have a couple of questions. Tyler, if you have anything maybe I don't ask, just chime in. But first thing I kind of want to get to, your situation obviously was very unique. You came in, I think you started at Florida State College, I think it was, like a junior college. Is that right?
Yeah, so I knew I was going to South Carolina the whole time. I was, I guess, technically what they call a gray shirt, where you don't come in until the following January after you graduate. It's just the way the application process worked out as me being a walk-on. And so I started there just taking classes and was waiting for my time to get to Carolina. So I spent that off season working out, throwing, and kind of get my body ready to play at that level. So, yeah, that was the beginning of my career.
Awesome. Great. And obviously you came into South Carolina after they had come off a ton of success with Coach Spurrier, everything they accomplished. Just talk about what was it kind of like coming into South Carolina, as a walk-on? And for those people that maybe don't know, what were some of the challenges, if any, that you had to face that maybe, starting out a scholarship player doesn't deal with? Was there anything in particular you can think of?
Yeah, you just don't get the same amount of reps as a scholarship guy does. If you do get a rep, you got to make the most of it. And when your time comes, you got to be ready to go. And if not, then, that's on you. And fortunately for the limited reps that I got when I first got there, I made the most of them and really caught Coach Spurrier's eye. And we kind of just went from there. And he kept telling me that he was going to continue to give me a chance to play. And one thing led to another. And next thing I knew, I was playing in the games and starting. So it was a pretty neat run.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, you mentioned Coach Spurrier. He's gone through many quarterbacks, as we all know. Talk about what it's like to be a quarterback, under Steve Spurrier. What kind of, day in and day out, and the type of pressure that comes with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure in general playing for any coach, but Coach Spurrier was just so attention to detail on the quarterbacking position. I mean, he played it, he coached it. That was his thing, and he took a lot of pride in it, and that's why he was tough on us. But I think his coaching style helped benefit me as I got older and started developing, and it really, really paid off come the last 2 years in my playing career. I wish we could have won a few more games that we had, virtually right in the bag, but yeah, it's part of it. But I definitely learned a lot from him, especially now moving forward into my quarterbacking coaching career and potential coaching career and actual football.
Right. So, yeah, that's one thing I want to move into is obviously, fast forwarding to the 2015 season. Connor Mitch is anointed the starter, go through South Carolina, beats North Carolina, game here in Charlotte that I was actually at. And then the following, I believe it was, South Carolina plays Kentucky at Williams-Brice. Connor Mitch out with an injury. Steve Spurrier, they hand you the ball. Obviously, you have a great performance, almost lead South Carolina to the comeback win. What was that like, kind of getting the starting, or learning, I guess, coming in and having a great performance and then getting the starting nod after that? What was kind of your feeling when you realized, I'm about to go in, like I'm about to become the starter of South Carolina? Like, what was that? What was kind of that whole experience like?
It was just a dream come true. I spent a lot of time that off season getting myself prepared and ready to go for that season, and for me to be thrust into the position. I always knew that I was going to get an opportunity. Coach told me multiple times, injury or not, I was going to get a chance to play and prove myself. So I was very, very fortunate to have a guy like him to be able to give me a chance. But yeah, it was breathtaking at first, kind of let the moment get to me at the beginning. But then once I got settled in and continued to play more games a little bit, then everything started calming down. I think everybody could see that.
Absolutely. So, yeah, just touching on that 2015 season, obviously we all know how it went. I don't want to dive too much into it, but I am interested to get your take. Obviously South Carolina, we finished 3-9, a lot of adversity. Coach Spurrier leaving kind of near the end of the year. What was that 2015 season like, as far as maybe in the locker room, what people weren't seeing? Like, how were you guys able to overcome adversity and really move forward and kind of press on week after week, and then even jumping forward, into 2016? And I know that you had a big part in that, being a leader on that football team. What was kind of that like?
It was just, it was difficult, when we were playing in so many close games, and then for our head coach to leave and then have a new staff. And then there's just a lot of change happening. But I think that, we played really, really well down the stretch of the 2015 season. We just couldn't pull out those games, which is really, really bizarre. But I think that my class, we didn't win a lot of games, and I know we kind of dropped, the program had dropped a little bit, but I think we left the next year and this upcoming year's team a good foundation of how you're supposed to work, and we really bought into what Coach Muschamp was doing. And they got a lot of young, good players, and I think that's what he was trying to do last year, was get these young guys in, get them playing for the years to come, not so much for last year. And some of us ended up on the short end of the stick on that, but it's how it goes sometimes.
For sure. And that kind of drives me into, what was sort of the reaction? Like I said, I don't want to touch too much in 2015, but what was your reaction, the team's reaction, when, Coach Spurrier decided to resign? Was it surprise? Did you guys kind of see it coming? Like, what was that like?
It was weird. Wasn't expecting it to be in the middle of the year. He had said something earlier that day where it kind of gave me like he might hang it up after the season. But, after that, after he had mentioned that, it was just in awe. Everything was just moved so quickly that, you just had to put it in the past, because, we had a game Saturday. We didn't have enough time to sit there and reflect on it. It was like, okay, well, he's out, next guy up, and let's try to win some games.
Absolutely. So moving into 2016, obviously, like you said, South Carolina brought in Coach Muschamp, really had what I'd call like a youth movement, like you were saying, tons and tons of young guys. What was it like personally for you? Obviously Brandon McElwain got the nod to start the year, and I think the coaching staff, you can correct me if I'm wrong, sort of felt that Brandon would be the guy. They also had, Jake Bentley, who we had heard about, but, obviously he was really, I guess, much younger, was supposed to be a senior in high school who enrolled early. What was it like kind of being behind Brandon to start the year? How did you kind of adjust your role? Because obviously you played a really huge part in 2016. Obviously those games you came in relief for. And, I just think off the top of my head, Vanderbilt, the Texas A&M game, the Georgia games, really giving, South Carolina that boost, and also being a mentor to those young guys. What was 2016 like for you with, Brandon McElwain and Jake Bentley?
It was different. I actually started that Vanderbilt game.
That's right. I apologize. That you are right.
And but that was just the role that they needed me to do, is with Jake and Brandon coming in. They needed someone to kind of take them under their wing and kind of show them what it's like, because they're both so young, hadn't played. Brandon was supposed to be the guy and didn't work out that way, and that's the way it goes. And Jake really stepped into the role and played well, and now he's got a lot of good talent around him, and as a quarterback, you can't ask for anything more than that.
Absolutely. Were you a little bit surprised when Brandon decided to transfer? Or that was, I mean, I know that they had kind of anointed Jake the go-to guy, if you will, but I really thought Brandon would be able to have an impact on this year's team. Obviously, I think there was a little bit more that went into it with baseball and stuff like that. But were you surprised at all, or?
I actually wasn't surprised when he decided to leave. I knew that it was going to be tough for him to come back and beat Jake out unless he came out and played really bad, especially with his dad being on staff and the way it was just shaping up for Jake to kind of take the reins of the program and run with it. And, the only way Brandon honestly was going to get a chance was if Jake were to get hurt. And there's no way to plan around that. You don't want to be sitting around waiting for other kids to get hurt if you're a player. You want to get out and play. And so, I mean, I transferred in high school, and I understand the transfer stuff. Like, you want to play, go ahead and try to find you a place to play. But you just never know how it's going to go. But, you got to root for him and hope he does well.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're definitely wishing the best for him. I know at Cal, I imagine he's going to have a great career there, both on the football field and the baseball diamond. So, moving forward, obviously, you were in year one of Coach Muschamp, the Muschamp era, if you will. What were some of the biggest differences between Coach Muschamp and Coach Spurrier that you noticed?
It was a lot more intense practice-wise, and then on and off the field, there was just a lot more attention to detail. Coach Spurrier could teach the X's and O's better than anybody, but it was the things outside of, necessarily the X's and O's side of the game, just having your shirt tucked in during workouts and everybody wearing the same stuff, and you show up on time and there were no exceptions or anything like that. But that's kind of what Coach Muschamp brought, that military style coaching, which kind of helped us play more disciplined football. And I think that hopefully will show off and pay off this season.
Absolutely. What was your favorite memory as a Gamecock, whether it be like a favorite game, favorite specific moment, play, etc.?
Honest, I really just enjoyed all my entire time, and a lot of the stuff I enjoyed more so wasn't even on the football field. It was just hanging out with the guys in the locker room and being around that team atmosphere. And I mean, they say that your college friends will be your best friends for life, and I find that to be true. I still talk to guys that I played with my freshman year that transferred out, and we still talk virtually a couple times a week. And there were a few games I wish we could have pulled out. That Clemson game in 2015 where we had them right on the ropes at home. That was I think a pretty fun game for everybody that was involved there. And if there was one wish that I could have had back, if there's anything, I wish we could have maybe lost a few more games that year. For us to have beaten Clemson that year would have been pretty special.
Yeah, I was at that game. That was a crazy game for sure. I remember sitting up in I guess it was the East stands. I think the entire side was orange. But yeah, that was a crazy game. That was a lot of fun.
That was my one question I was going to ask. Like, which game that year do you want back the most? But you answered it for me. So
yeah, there's no question it was the Clemson game. I think for us to be able to have beaten our rival and the number one team in the country, and we had them right there. We had just scored 3 touchdowns in a row. Had been playing good on defense, and we needed one more stop and couldn't get it done. That's just how it goes, man.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What's the loudest you ever heard Williams-Brice?
It wasn't that year. It's honestly probably the 2013 Clemson game, 2014 Georgia. I was actually at the 2012 game where we beat Georgia. We beat the brakes off of them.
That's great.
That was the loudest I'd ever heard a stadium.
I was going to say I was at both that. I actually wasn't at the 2012 Georgia game, unfortunately. I was at the 2013 Clemson and the 2014 Georgia, and I'd agree with you both. I remember Dylan Thompson saying that the 2014 Georgia, when he missed the field goal, was probably the loudest he'd ever heard it. That was a crazy game. But, yeah, 2013.
That game was wild.
So what's the toughest defense that you ever faced? Was there one in particular, like one defense that you guys felt like you just couldn't figure out, or maybe just had more talent than anybody else?
Yeah, the Florida defense. Florida was always so stacked from top to bottom, from defensive line to linebacker to still. I mean, everybody they had. I mean, we played. I'm trying to think of the guys. I know 5 guys off the top of my head that are playing in the NFL now, or that were just drafted in the NFL draft. I mean, and I'm just guesstimating. I mean, you think both corners, both safeties, so that's 4 right there. Both starting linebackers, so there's 6, and then 2 defensive linemen. So, yeah, 8 of the 11 are playing the NFL, and they were tough, man. They were fast, physical, and they loved to hit, man.
Yeah, and I know those are all Muschamps boys, so I know that South Carolina fans are hoping we're going to bring in those same type defensive guys. So I have full confidence that'll be happening very soon. So looking ahead, obviously, you're finished at South Carolina, onto the things which we're going to talk about here in just a second. But looking ahead of this 2017 team, I mean, I know that you had talked about, all the guys on there basically. And you had talked about, obviously South Carolina was really young last year. I think we returned 10 of 11 on offense, including Jake Bentley, all the skill position players, returned a lot on defense as well, including Sky Moore. What are your feelings about, kind of where this team can go in 2017? Obviously, like you were saying, there's been a lot of hype around Jake, a lot of hype around what that offense can do. Year 2, Will Muschamp. There was actually an announcer a college football analyst last week that said he wouldn't be totally surprised if South Carolina was in Atlanta. And I mean, I tend to agree with him. How do you feel? Obviously you've been around those guys. How do you feel about South Carolina's chances this year?
I mean, they have all the talent in the world. They just got to figure out how to win games. When you kind of go in little ruts like we did, just getting the players to finish out and complete games. And I think we're going to have to win games on the road. We did not do a very good job of that last season. And we have a lot of tough games on the road this year, and that's going to be a big test for us. And then getting Clemson and Florida at home is good, but, at A&M and Tennessee and Georgia, I mean, those are 3 really difficult places to play and win at. So, I'm interested to see how we'll do.
Do you feel like that's something as far as playing on the road, having that composure? Because I completely agree with you. I thought then, when you guys went to Florida and Clemson, that, obviously those teams had great, great defenses, but that maybe that inexperience or the immaturity showed a little bit. What do you feel like that just comes with more experience? Is that something that, because, I'm not sure that you can really train to get that. I think just going on the road, getting that experience is kind of what builds it. Would you agree with that, or is it something else?
Yeah, no, you just have to go out and be around it. I think since we were so young, we had no choice but to play the guys. But for me, I was able to be a little bit more comfortable on the road because I had been to games on the road and been at places where it was loud and it was, we were at an opposing crowd or at an opposing field. And when you're young in your first year and you go to away games and it's loud and you're kind of feeling uncomfortable, that could be a good reason of what was going on. And then it takes some time to get settled in. So hopefully that they'll be able to turn it around. I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing how they'll play.
Absolutely. What was, like you had mentioned, you've obviously been in a lot of hostile environments. What was the most hostile environment that you ever started in?
Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee, there was 106,000 people at that game, and it was deafening. I remember trying to talk to Brandon Wild standing next to me at running back, and he couldn't hear me, and we were 3 yards apart.
Wow.
Not even 3 yards apart. And, I mean, it was just absolutely deafening loud.
Wow. Okay, so I want to move into, obviously, post South Carolina. You've been doing the QB1 athletic stuff with the QB training. You've been working at, along with Steven Garcia. Talk a little bit about that, kind of your quarterback training that you've been doing. Give the people a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, so it's something that I was interested in doing because immediately I didn't want to jump right back into coaching, and now there's getting an itch to get back into it, and I guess we'll see as the season goes along. But with this quarterback training stuff, it's been great to pass along the knowledge that I learned from some of the great coaches I played for and some of the things that helped me get better in my actual physical playing career. And Steven was a great player as well, so it's awesome to do these camps with him. And then I'm in Columbia and Greenville and Charleston a lot, training kids, doing one-on-one and group sessions. So I'm here, I'm available. My contact information and everything we're doing is on our website, qb1athletics.com. And there's a great way to figure out where I'll be, what I'm doing, and get any contact information that you might need. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Check it out. Kind of feeding into that, we've got some listener questions And I'm going to start with the first one, kind of piggybacking off the quarterback camp you're running. This one comes from Gregory House via Cocky Talk, the forum, South Carolina forum online. His question is, what, if anything, did you learn from Steve Spurrier and G.A. Mangus that you feel helps you train quarterbacks that come to your training center?
I think not so much on the individual training of mechanics. I think more so on the X's and O's. Like when I do my camps and I get kids on the board, I mean, they were the ones who really explained to me and taught me what defenses were, along with another name that goes under the radar. Brian Turk was our quarterback grad assistant. He's now the running back coach at Limestone. He's the one who really took me under his wing and showed me how defenses work and what they do. And then Coach Spurrier obviously taught the offense along with Coach Mangus to help me understand how the plays beat the coverages and why they beat them. And that's one thing I pass to the guys that I'm training now.
Absolutely. So this next question comes from actually a colleague of ours, Sage Moody. He is a Clemson writer for us for Armchair All-Americans. His question for you, Perry, and I'm interested to see your response. How do you feel about Bentley? I'm not sure if you saw the comments, Jake Bentley saying that Clemson isn't much better than South Carolina, if better at all. I'm not sure did you see those comments by Jake at all? Or
yeah, I did. I actually spoke with him about them, and I completely understand where he was coming from. Not so much of we did get crushed and we weren't as good as them, and he completely agreed with that, but he didn't believe that we were 56 points or whatever the score. I don't even remember what the score was. He said that he didn't believe that we were 49 points worse than them. You know, I don't know how much worse or how much more talent they had. All I know is that we weren't 49 points worse than they were.
Right.
I'll agree with him.
Right. Okay, this question comes from Kenny Ramsey via Facebook. Describe breaking the big run at Texas A&M, and did you think you were going to take it to the house?
Yeah, no, I didn't even realize it, man. Once I hit the open field, I was trying to figure out where the safety was, because usually when you break the first and second level, you have at least a safety right there to contain, and there was no one there, so I just put my head down for the first 40 yards. I think everyone will agree that I was cooking. In the last 20, I was kind of sucking some wind, and had some other speedsters out on the field come up, and they caught me. But yeah, it was awesome. Definitely a memory I'll never forget.
Absolutely, yeah. You definitely hit the gas pedal. I'll give you that. I know Hayden Hurst is a guy you're really close with. So this question also comes from Kenny Ramsey. Your thoughts on Hayden Hurst, his ceiling, and your thoughts on him going from baseball to football, and now national sources tagging him as an NFL talented tight end when they're talking about the USC offense.
Yeah, I think that he'll be a first or second day guy in next year's draft. Probably, if I had to guess, I would say second round. But if he blows up this year, I could see him being a first. I mean, he's 6'5", got probably the best hands on our team, 255 pounds, and runs a high 4.5. I mean, if that's not an NFL tight end, then I don't know what is. So, yeah, he's as good of an athlete as I've ever been around. I've known him since I was 10 years old, and he's been a heck of a player for us, and he's going to again this year.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this kind of jumping off that, or staying on that, if you will, this comes from Gregory House via Cocky Talk. What is Hayden Hurst like off the field?
He's just calm, cool, collected dude, man. He just likes to hang out. And, we've spent a lot of time watching hockey together, playing NHL on the Xbox, and just hanging out, having a good time. He's not a huge party animal. He just likes to be around the guys, having a good time and relaxing, because when he's out on the field, he really busts it. So when he's off, he's pretty tired and just wants to hang out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's definitely a beast, and I know we're all looking forward to watching him this year. Let's see. Let's pick two more. We're gonna do two funny ones because I just figured why not.
There's one I like.
Yeah, this one comes from Nurai via Cocky Talk. He wants to know, how do you stay so tan?
Dude, I got the Italian skin, man. I go in the sun and I don't get burned. I've had probably 5 or 6 people throughout the course of my career ask if I was black. No, I'm not. I am. I have an Italian background, so anytime I go in the sun, I don't burn. I just get brown.
That's awesome. All right, last one. I have to ask it. Laughing with me via Reddit wants to know: do you prefer earthquake or orthgasm?
Probably earthquake. I don't think that earthquake you can get away with everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Orgasm is probably that's above PG. That's R-rated.
Yeah, that's a little tough. All right. Well, hey, Perry, I do appreciate it. Like I said, I know that you got a lot going on with your quarterback camp. Everybody that's listening, if you have, all right, what age group are you doing with is it kind of a pre-college, or like what's kind of the age group you guys are doing?
So yeah, anybody that wants to come out and get some work in, I'm doing a camp down in Jacksonville over the 4th of July weekend here in a couple weeks, and inviting kids of all ages, and same thing for my training and same thing for my camps. We're gonna put certain groups on certain camps, so we'll definitely announce it. But for general training, anybody that wants to learn how to throw the football properly, they can reach out to us on our contact information on our website, qb1athletics.com. If you Google QB1 Athletics, it'll come right up. So there's no other way to explain it than that. And there's the website's on the mobile edition and the desktop version. So it's very, very easy to navigate. Not too much information not overload of information, just the basic stuff of what we do and who I've got helping me do it, and where I'll be. Absolutely.
All right, definitely. We'll check it out. We'll definitely check it out, and we'll definitely be keeping up with you. But again, Perry, for myself, Tyler, did you have any questions or anything? I know I didn't.
No, he pretty much answered all my questions.
All right, great. Well, hey, Perry, again, we really do appreciate it. Best of luck with the QB1 Athletics, with the quarterback camp and everything. And, look forward and hope to hear from you, down the road in the near future, and wish you best of luck with everything again. Thanks you so much.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for having me on. I'll talk to you later.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Perry. All right, guys, that was Perry Orth. Wow, absolute pleasure to have him on. Tyler, that was a lot of fun. So we're going to move really quickly into a little bit of just touch on a couple of things that are happening right now in the world of Gamecock sports. If you didn't hear, Sunday on Father's Day, the Gamecocks picked up a really big commitment from quarterback DeCarrion Joyner out of Fort Dorchester. He actually chose the Gamecocks over NC State. I think it was pretty much expected, Tyler, that he would pick South Carolina. And they actually said that he had told the staffs a couple of weeks prior, I think maybe even at the spring game, that he was going to commit to South Carolina. But we didn't know, officially came out, made that announcement. What are your feelings, kind of your take on Joyner? From my perspective, I think it's a great pickup, kind of a dual threat quarterback. But what was kind of your take on it?
I think it's a huge pickup because I think everyone's estimation is that Jake will be gone after his third year. And for the last couple of years, I have a few buddies that moved to Charleston after we graduated, and I've heard his name for at least 3 years. And I think it was interesting listening to I guess it was his high school coach talk before he announced. He was saying that he was a JV starter in 8th grade, and then I think in 9th grade he was a varsity starter. And then he said when he was in 8th grade he would just run out of the pocket. He'd never want to throw the ball. But I think it's interesting to point out that as he's gotten older, they say that he's trying to perfect the craft of staying in the pocket and being really versatile between both. And I think the guys that we've seen come through South Carolina, they haven't been as versatile as we expected them to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely think you're absolutely right that I think as, the Gamecock coaching staff, as Gamecock fans, you kind of have to expect if Jake Bentley has the type of year that we all think and know he's capable of having this year, and then into 2018, he's most likely gone after his junior season, which is fine. But, getting Joyner in there, I think you're absolutely right that a lot of times in the past, South Carolina's had, when they did have a quarterback that was mobile, it's kind of one or the other. We've had a lot of quarterbacks that maybe ran out of the pocket too quickly or couldn't really throw it that well. I mean, obviously the last one that we had, I would say, was Connor Shaw, that could really do both effectively. Yeah. So it'll be really interesting to see. I think that's a great pickup for South Carolina. Like I said, he's actually working towards his school credit, stuff like that, I believe, to be able to enroll in January. So that would be huge for him.
Very awesome.
get a redshirt year and next year, really learn the offense and then be set up for a prime 2019 to really compete for the starting job. So moving on from that, the NBA draft is this Thursday. PJ Dozier and Sindarius Thornwell hoping to have their names called. Tyler, I know that you've done a little bit of research, on the draft and kind of where those guys are projected. Do we have any word on kind of what we think is going to happen? Or
all right, so I clicked on a few links, but the first one I clicked on was Sports Illustrated, and they didn't have either one of them going in all rounds. So I thought that was pretty stupid. So I kept looking, and the latest NBA draft from NBA.com has Sindarius Thornwell going in the second round on the 49th pick to the Denver Nuggets. And then shortly after, PJ Dozier going 53rd to the Celtics, which we would certainly take the services of PJ Dozier. I think both of those would be really, really good landing spots. PJ Dozier's that big, physical, kind of versatile player that can play on both sides. Sindarius is the same way. And Denver is going through a huge youth movement right now, and I think Sindarius would fit in really well in Denver.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I think Sindarius have a great chance to play early in Denver for sure.
Yeah, he would get some minutes in, certainly.
For sure. Yeah, I know you as a diehard Celtics fan would love to see PJ come to Boston. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Again, the NBA draft is Thursday. We'll have full coverage of it on Armchair All-Americans, breaking down everything as it happens. Touching base a little bit, obviously the College World Series is going on. Nothing to note. Obviously, South Carolina's not in it, but Ray Tanner is at the College World Series. He is, I believe, on the College World Series committee, if you will, but I just thought it was really interesting because the Florida Gators are also in the College World Series, and they are coached by Kevin O'Sullivan, who I think, and obviously from our last show, have the source that it's all but a done deal to come to South Carolina. It'll be really interesting to see how that kind of unfolds. Obviously, they won their game one against TCU 3-0. So it'll be interesting to see how the results of the College World Series play into the who South Carolina hires. Obviously, Eric Bakich was a name that was thrown around a lot from Michigan. Came out last week that they had never even talked to him. Ray Tanner had never contacted him. So it's looking more and more like Kevin O'Sullivan is the guy that Ray Tanner wants. If he gets him, we'll see. I think there's a lot to discuss as far as money goes and buyouts and contracts and stuff like that. But if there's anybody that can do it, it's Ray Tanner. So it'd be really interesting to see that. Tyler, your thoughts? Anything on that? Anything in particular on the coaching search?
The Ray Tanner thing, man, there's a real tease. But I guess since we're not hearing anything about it, we can make up whatever we want it to be about. So he's definitely there for Kevin O'Sullivan, 100%, and no other reason.
Yeah, we'll definitely be following that in the upcoming weeks. Like I said, stick to Armchair All-Americans, the Armchair South Carolina Twitter account for that. We will be having more guests. We're going to move into when July hits. There will be July 4th week, but then we get right into SEC Media Days, Tyler, which is always a fun time of year. I know Will Muschamp's on the last day of that, which I think is Thursday. From there, we'll kind of start breaking down, previewing the college football season. South Carolina opens fall camp July 27th. It's right around the corner, really. So we'll kind of break everything down, previewing the offense, defense, breaking down the schedule, do an overall preview for the football season. And like I said, we will be having more guests on the show. So with that being said, I think we're going to wrap it up. Again, we do appreciate Perry Worth coming on the show. And again, you can find us on iTunes at the Spurs Up Show, on armchairallamericans.com. And please do follow us on our Twitter account, Armchair SCAR, Armchair SCAR. Also, be sure to rate and subscribe to the show on iTunes. Tell us if you love it. Tell us if you hate it. We appreciate all comments and all feedback. So with that being said, Tyler, you got any last words?
Go Cox. That's it.
Go Cox. All right. Well, again, he's Tyler Clark. I'm Chris Phillips. We appreciate you guys listening. We'll catch you next time.